This video is about creating hyperlinks in Microsoft PowerPoint 2008 for the Macintosh. A lot of the things are similar in other Macintosh versions of PowerPoint, though the interface is quite different in the Windows version of PowerPoint. So I have created a presentation and I'm going to add hyperlinks to it. So just so that you can see, I have a title slide, and then I have a menu slide, and then I have some sections in this presentation. So I've got section 1, and there's no real content here, and section 2, and section 3, and then finally I'm going to have a special note about commas in slide titles, so I have a separate slide for that as well. So that's my presentation. There are no hyperlinks currently in this presentation. Before I get started, it's always a good idea to save your presentation. So I'm going to go to the File menu and choose Save. I haven't saved this presentation at all yet, and I wanted to point out the importance of saving this into a folder and then putting everything related to the presentation into that folder. That's kind of important, especially with hyperlinks, that if you have things in separate places, often the hyperlinks will break if they are to other documents. So I'm going to put this into a special folder. I've created a folder on my desktop, so I'm going to go to my desktop, and there it is, a little folder called Hyperlinking PowerPoint, and I'm going to give it a name, and so I'll just call it hyperlinks.pptx, and the extension for PowerPoint files, normal PowerPoint files, is .pptx. And now I'm going to click Save. So now I've saved it into the folder. Always a good idea to do that before you do any of your hyperlinking. Now I don't need to do anything right now on the title slide, so I'm going to jump to the menu slide. So the first kind of hyperlink that I want is I want to create a hyperlink from one slide to another slide. And so I'm going to start with this link to section 1. It's not a link yet, but I'm going to make it into a link. So I'm going to highlight the text that I want to make into the link, and I'm going to go into the Insert menu and choose Hyperlink. And now I get to this special page here, this dialog box, that gives me three options. I can hyperlink to a web page, I can hyperlink to a document, or I can hyperlink to an email address. And all of those are somewhat obvious, though not entirely, so we'll go through most of this stuff. First thing I want to do, this is to another page in my document, which isn't listed here on any of the things, but that's part of document. So if you want to go to another document or a part of a document, you go to document. And then what I need to do is I need to, where it says anchor, I'm going to click on locate. And that will give me a bunch of options for where I can make this link go to within this document. So I can link to the first slide, I can link to the last slide, I can link to the next slide, I can link to the previous slide, I can link to any of my specific slides, or I can link to custom shows. We're not going to talk about custom shows, but those are very nice, useful things that you can create separate little mini shows within your PowerPoint document and then link to those as you like. So I want to link to a specific slide, so I'm going to choose slide titles, and if I click on the little arrow and pull down the menu there, it shows me all of my different slides in the presentation, so I can choose any one of my slides. In this case, I want to choose section 1. So I'm going to click on that, and that's the slide I want, and I will click OK. And then it adds some information up here in the link to, and display is just the text that I highlighted, and that's all that I need to do. So I'm going to click OK. And what you'll notice is that the word section 1 has become blue and underlined. And so that means that it has made it into some kind of a hyperlink. but it would be a good idea to test this out, make sure it links to the right thing. So I'm going to go into slideshow view from the current slide, and then I can click on that link, and you see when I put my mouse over it, it becomes the little hand to indicate that I'm ready to click. And when I click on that, it takes me to section 1. And so it seems that my hyperlink worked, so that's great. So I'm going to hit escape, go back to my menu slide, and now it's turned purple and underlined because now that's a visited link. And so I'm going to go back to my menu slide. I'm going to save right now, go to the File menu and choose Save. Then I'm going to do the same things for sections 2 and 3. I'm going to highlight the text, insert hyperlink, be sure I'm in the document section, click on locate the anchor, choose from my slide titles, this one's section 2, select that, click OK, and click OK. And then I can do the same thing for section 3, highlight the text, insert hyperlink, make sure document selected, locate anchor, and under slide titles choose section 3 and click OK and OK. And now I should have everything linked. I can test that out. To save time, I won't do that, but when you do test it out, if for some reason it's not going to the right place, it's really easy to accidentally select the same slide that you're actually on rather than the one you want to go to, or just click on the wrong slide for whatever reason. So you find it's wrong, you just do it again. Highlight, insert hyperlink, and change it up, and that's not a problem. Alright, so now we've got those 3 links there. And so what I'd like to do now is make it so that my slides link back to the menu. So right now when I click on one of these, and note that clicking can only happen in slideshow view, if I click right now it doesn't actually take me there. So I can click when I'm in slideshow view, but it won't take me back. I got no way to get back, so I have to escape or use the arrow keys or something like that, and I don't want to deal with that. So what I want to do is have a button on each slide to take me back to the menu. So I'm going to go to section 1, and I am going to insert a button to take me to the menu slide. So I can go to my toolbar where I have shapes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a button. So if I click on the little down arrow here, it gives me a whole bunch of choices of types of shapes, and the last choice is action buttons. And so I can choose from 12 different action buttons. And the one that I'm going to choose is the little home button, because I think of my menu as home, so I'm going to choose the little home button there. And then you'll notice that my cursor has turned to a plus sign, and so I can either drag the mouse somewhere or I can just click somewhere to draw the button. So I'm going to click down in the bottom right corner, and it draws a picture of a little house in a button, and it brings up the Action Settings dialog box. And in the Action Settings dialog box you have the option of doing nothing, so I could choose none, or hyperlinking to something. And I'm going to choose to hyperlink to, but I don't want to go to the first slide. The first slide was my title slide. I want to go back to the menu. It thinks that the home button should just take you to the title, to the first slide, and that's not where I want to go. So I'm going to click on the drop down there, and what you'll see is many of the same options in the other hyperlinking menu or dialog box we looked at before. Next slide, previous slide, first slide, last slide. Last slide viewed is really nice because that's the slide you just came from, so I like that. That's a new option under Action Settings that wasn't there in the regular hyperlinking menu. End show is nice. If you want to have a quit button, you can assign end show to that. Custom show again. Slide ... is what we want here, but I'll pass that for a second. URL to take you to a web page, a different PowerPoint presentation, or any other file. But I'm going to choose slide ... and that's going to bring up another little dialog box that shows me a choice of all my slides, and in this case I want to go to the menu slide, and this is kind of nice. It gives me a little picture of that slide as well. So I'm going to click OK here, and that will connect this button. It will hyperlink it to the slide titled Menu. That's what it's showing there, which is that specific slide, our slide number 2. And I'll click OK. And now I'm going to check to make sure that this worked. So I'm going to go into Slideshow View, and then you'll notice when I go over the button, my mouse turns into the little hand, and when I click on it, it takes me to the menu, and that is great. And then I can hit Escape, and I can go back to that button there. And now if I did happen to make a mistake, then I can adjust the action settings. There are a few ways to do that. And the easiest way to do that is to right-click on the button, on the edge of the button usually, because if there's text in the button, then you don't want to accidentally do something just to the text. And then from the menu, the right-click menu, I can choose action settings. If your mouse doesn't have a right-click, you can hold down the control key and click. And I'll choose action settings, and then I can change my action settings. And if I was right, which I was in this case, I'll just leave it. But if I was wrong, I'll just try again and then click OK. And that takes care of my menu button. Now what I want to do is I want to put that menu button on my other slides as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the button to select it, then go to the Edit menu and choose Copy, and now go to the next slide, Edit and Paste, and then the next slide, Edit and Paste, and then I'll even put one on that last slide, the special note commas in slide titles, and I'll paste one there for when I take care of that slide. Okay, so now I should be able to go to each of my 3 sections. I haven't hyperlinked to the commas slide yet because I'm going to do that later. I can hyperlink to each of the 3 sections and then get back to the beginning. So I'm going to try this. I'll go into Slideshow View. I can go to section 1, and then I can go back to the menu. I don't have to go in order. I can go to section 3 and then go back to the menu. Go to section 2 and go back to the menu. And you'll notice that my colors aren't changing. PowerPoint 2008 has a bug in it that when you go to a slide with a hyperlink, the color of the hyperlink doesn't change until a little bit later. It's a little annoying, but it's a PowerPoint bug. So even though I've been to section 2, it's not showing until I go somewhere else and come back again. Now it's got that purple color. So I can just keep going back and forth all that I want. And that is great. So that takes care of hyperlinking to other slides. So now we might want to do some other hyperlinking. We might want to, and for some reason, PowerPoint doesn't recognize the word hyperlinking, so it's red and underlined, so I'll just add that to my dictionary. Oops, it won't let me add that to my dictionary, so I will just ignore it. Okay, so now I'm going to highlight the text that I want to link, and this time I want to link to a document. Now I mentioned putting everything related to the PowerPoint into the same folder. You'll notice I have my Hyperlinking in PowerPoint folder over here, and inside that folder I've got another document that I've titled, creatively enough, Notes About Hyperlinking.docx. So this is a Word document, an external document, so I'm going to link to that. So I'm going to highlight that text, and then I'm going to, again, insert, hyperlink, and again I want to choose document, but this time instead of choosing just to locate an anchor, I want to select a file. So I'm going to click on Select File, and then I want to choose from the files in my folder, and since I'm already looking in my folder, it remembered that, I am going to select the file and choose Open, and then click OK. And so now, when I run this, oh, it just reminded me I should probably save. I'm going to go into Slideshow View. When I click on Notes About Hyperlinking, if all worked well, it will open that file. And sometimes it gives me warnings like some files cause viruses. I created this file. I know it doesn't have a virus. I'm going to click open, and it will then kick us out into Word and bring us this Word file that has a few notes about hyperlinking. And then I can quit out of Word, and it takes me right back into slideshow view of my PowerPoint, and I'll hit escape. So that's hyperlinking slides and hyperlinking to a document. Now we are going to want to hyperlink to a website. So I'm going to highlight the text again, go to Insert, Hyperlink, and this time I want the Web Page tab here on this dialog box. And so I want to find a web page, and I can do that in a number of ways. It won't let me click here and browse, so the best way to do this is probably to go to a website and copy and paste the URL. I'll just type something in here, http://www.markovits.com, and so that will take me to my website, and then I will click OK. And I'm just using my website as an example. You can link to whatever website you want as long as you have the complete URL, including that http:// which tells it that it's actually going to a website. So let's test this one out. I'm going to go into slideshow view, click on the link, and it should start up my browser and take me to the page that I requested, which is great. So now I can quit out of the browser, and it takes me back to my PowerPoint. So a couple more things that I want to do here. I'm going to try to link to that special note about commas slide. So I'm going to highlight the text and insert a hyperlink, and this is the same thing we did with sections 1, 2, and 3. Go to Document, Anchor Locate, choose from the slide titles, and this one is Special Note, Commas in Slide Titles, and I'll click on that, and I'll click OK, and click OK. And it looks perfect. So I'm going to go into Slideshow View to try it out, and when I click on it, nothing happens. And this is another bug in PowerPoint. In most versions of PowerPoint, this isn't just a Mac bug, this is in most versions of PowerPoint. If you have a comma in the title of your slide, it has trouble linking to it. So what I need to do is I need to get rid of the comma. If I really, really want a comma there, then there are ways to work around that. In some versions, once you've made the link, adding the comma back in works just fine. Also, you can drag this title, which is the official title, off the viewable area of the slideshow, and then make another text box that looks just like the title that has the comma in there. But for most of our purposes, trying to leave the commas out of titles is the best thing. So now I've removed the comma, but the link still won't work. I'm going to have to highlight again, insert, hyperlink, and actually link again. So I'm going to locate that, go to slide titles, and now choose that title that no longer has a comma, click OK, and click OK. And now when I go into slideshow view, it will actually work. And then I can even go back to the menu. So those are some of the basic things about hyperlinking. There's now a couple more things that I want to do. I'm going to put a button on my title slide. We haven't been going to the title slide, but I'm going to go there now and put a button there to take me to the menu, and you'll see why I want to do that in a minute. So I'm going to again go to my shapes, go to action buttons, and choose a button. I can choose again any of the buttons. I could have actually copied and pasted that home button on the other slides. I'm going to choose the next button. You can see there are a bunch of different kinds of buttons. I'll choose that one, and I'm gonna just draw this nice big next button here, and I'm going to hyperlink to, and the next slide is the menu slide, so I'll keep that. If I put another slide in the middle there, it will no longer take me to the menu slide, but as long as it's the next slide, this will work just fine. So I'll do that, and I don't even have to choose any of the other things, and I'll click OK. And now, when I run the show, either from the current slide, which happens to be the first slide, or going to the slideshow menu and view slideshow, which automatically starts at the first slide, I can run this slideshow. I can click on a link, and then I can go to any of my sections within the slideshow, always going back and in whatever order I want. And I can go to the documents as well. I'm not going to click on those. We've already seen that. And so it's a completely hyperlinked slideshow. So what I want to do with this is, let's say, I'm going to save first. Let's say that I want to give this to my students. Let's say there was more than just this silly content in here, but there were real content, and I wanted to control how they went through this. So what I would want to do with that is I would want to put this in what's called kiosk mode. And so I'm going to go to Slideshow and Set Up Show, and choose, instead of presented by a speaker full screen, I'm going to choose Browsed at a Kiosk full screen and click OK. And kiosk mode does something very special for me. So I'm going to view my slideshow, and now let's say that I'm your typical student and I've gotten this presentation and there's a button there, but I don't want to click on that button. I want to do whatever I want. Well, kiosk mode prevents that. I can bang on the space bar, I can hit my arrow keys. I'm hitting my right arrow key, my left arrow key. I can do whatever I want. Nothing works except clicking on hyperlinks and buttons. That's it. So if you have anything, even animations that require a click, they won't work. The only things that work are clicking on hyperlinks and buttons, and one other thing, the escape key still works. So if you want to get out of the slideshow, you hit the escape key. And those are the things that will work. So I'm going to do this again, go to Slideshow, View Show, and now I can click on my button, takes me to my menu, but only my menu items work. Nothing else works. When I go to, say, the web activity, now all your normal stuff works until you go back into the slideshow. But now, again, I can't click anywhere else. I keep clicking, but nothing's happening. And I can't hit the space bar. I can't hit any keys. I'm just banging on my keyboard. Nothing's working other than, again, the escape key. And so now I can click on buttons and hyperlinks and go to wherever it is in the presentation that I want to go. And as the student, I can only go where the presentation lets me go. So that's really nice. So now I'm going to save this. Haven't saved in a little bit. And so now the last thing I want to do with this is I want to turn this into a PowerPoint show. So I've been saving this as a PPTX file. What I'm going to do is go to the File menu and choose Save As. And I'm going to save this as the same. I'll put it in the same location in that same folder so my hyperlinks continue to work as they should. And I'm going to save this, instead of as a PowerPoint presentation, I'll save it as a PowerPoint show. And that's under Specialty Formats right there. And so that's a PPSX file. And it'll keep the same name, so I'll click Save. And now I'm going to quit out of PowerPoint. I'm going to go to the folder, and you'll see now I've got 3 files in this folder: the original hyperlinks.pptx file, the Word document notes about hyperlinking.docx, and now my new hyperlinks.ppsx. And that file is special. When I double click on this file, what's going to happen is it's going to take me automatically into PowerPoint show mode. And that doesn't prevent the student from ever doing anything to this, but it guides them. So if you give your students a file, now it's in kiosk mode and show mode, so if they just double click on it, they can only do what you've suggested that they should do. They can't click on things, they can't bang on the keyboard other than the escape key. They can click on buttons, go to the menu, go to section 2, go back again, go to section 3, go back again, and go to the special notes about commas and go back again, and so on. And then when they're done, if you haven't put a quit button in there, they can just hit the escape key and it takes them out of the PowerPoint completely, though in the Mac version for some reason it doesn't quit out of PowerPoint. Other versions do that as well. So now we are done with our PowerPoint. So the last thing I want to show you here about that is that let's say you decide that you want to edit your PowerPoint file that's saved as a PPSX. And your students can do this too, which is why the method I just showed you of saving as a PowerPoint show isn't foolproof, but it just guides them in the right direction. But if you want to edit your own PowerPoint as a PPSX file, you can start up PowerPoint, go to the File menu, choose Open, and find that PPSX file and open it, and it will open it up in normal view so you can edit it and then save it again as a PPSX. So that will be the way that you'll edit PPSX files if you haven't made it all perfect the first time. So what we've done here is we've seen hyperlinking to other slides within your document. Those are our sections 1, 2, and 3. We've seen hyperlinking to a document outside of the PowerPoint, hyperlinking to a web page, and the special note about not putting commas in your slide titles when you want to hyperlink to those slides. And that is the end of hyperlinking with PowerPoint in Microsoft PowerPoint 2008.